I went to the Sega booth every day to request permission to play the extended demo for Sonic Frontiers at this year's Gamescom, but every day they were unfortunately fully booked. I had honestly given up hope until a friend of mine told me that the TikTok booth, of all places, had a demo for Sonic Frontiers playable on the show floor. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with Gamescom, the public show floor is always crowded beyond belief, with long lines of people waiting to play the latest games. As someone from the press, we tend to make appointments beforehand in the business area so that we can play these demos in peace and maybe even talk to the developer. But for Sonic Frontiers, I made my way to the TikTok public booth, stood in line for actually not that long of a time, and got my hands on a PC demo of Sonic Frontiers. While the story itself completely washed past me, I held my breath as I gained control over the blue hedgehog and started running. And I didn't hate it. Now, to judge this demo based on the 10 to 15 minutes I got to play around with it before a TikTok staff member told me to make room for new players is not exactly representative. Many of the people I talked to who did stand in line for over an hour to play the same demo at Sega's booth for an extended period of time had a far worse time with this demo. My expectations were pretty abysmal, to be honest, but I still felt that I wanted to see how Sonic Team wanted to present this reinvention of the franchise. Let's begin with the most notable aspect. Even on this PC build, which should probably be the prettiest version, this game looks absolutely awful. You've probably seen some fan projects of a Sonic game built in Unreal Engine or something that's better looking than this game. Frequent pop-in, terrible use of shaders and visual effects made Sonic Frontiers immediately look just kinda off. Even during the cutscenes, it was shocking to see how bad the game was looking on PC, especially for a game that will be releasing on both last generation and the current generation of hardware. This has made me very curious about the performance of the Switch version, but we'll get there when we get there. So while the graphical design and visual pop-in didn't make a good case for the game, the gameplay itself I actually found pretty enjoyable. The sense of speed in a Sonic game hasn't felt this good since something like maybe Unleashed. The wide open areas of the overworld made traversal quite fun, especially with a lot of interactive objects like grind rails, bumpers, and boosters. The fact that you aren't restricted by the linearity of a level design or the sluggishness of a Sonic hub world is refreshing. Quests and objectives work in a similar way. While some are rather straightforward, you can find items scattered around the world and use those to unlock additional levels, like the subspace ones you've probably seen of Green Hill Zone. While the puzzles never required too much brain space on my end, I did like the incorporation of the new trail mechanic, unlocked via the skill tree. Yes, there's an actual skill tree in this game. You can hold down the Y button at any time to have a blue streak follow Sonic's footsteps. This can be used to draw circles around enemies and objects, sort of similar to the approach in Pokemon Ranger. When encircled, Sonic dashes toward an enemy and deals a good amount of damage and can even stun opponents. While the mechanic seems to have many uses and has been incorporated in puzzles as well, it feels like an interesting method to spice up Sonic's general moveset. I can see how this may be a choice to influence the next decade of Sonic titles, and so far, if you ask me, it has a lot of potential. Another thing that surprised me was the combat. The first footage that IGN released of Sonic Frontiers made the combat feel slow and sluggish, especially when dealing with minor enemies seemed to take an absurdly long time. But it seemed that during this demo, defeating enemies was much more doable. I really enjoyed the ways in which Sonic can engage with combat during this demo. From dealing regular kicks and punches, to using that streak ability to stun opponents, to actively dodging out of the way of an attack by using the right bumper, and then using that opening to deal damage. It maybe isn't as instant as his old homing attack, but it does feel weighty, and makes enemies a more formidable obstacle in an open world where running around them is also a valid option at most times. What stood out to me most at the end of my time with this demo is that Sonic Frontiers still feels and plays like a modern 3D Sonic game. Whether that's something you enjoy is definitely subject to opinion and taste. As someone who's enjoyed quite a few of the 3D outings, especially around the Unleashed and Generations era, this clicked with me immediately. The open world is something that needs to be experienced for a longer time to fully judge, but for now, it feels like a right fit for Sonic. Now, whether this game will run well enough on Switch is a matter of waiting till we see it in action on the go, But hey, I mean, if Mario and Zelda and Kirby can do it, Sonic shouldn't have a hard time with this. Right? Please? This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Did you know that Nintendo World Report is funded directly by fans like you? When you support Nintendo World Report on Patreon, you get immediate access to multiple exclusive podcasts every month, exclusive Discord channels, an early look at select content, and more, all for as little as $1 a month. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.